Alrighty, I would love today, what I should be doing is discussing the article by Cy Hirsch about America's bombing of the Nord Stream pipeline. But I will have to save that for tomorrow. I haven't had time to read through it in depth, as I have been listening to the Murdaugh trial for the last 2 days. And, that might surprise some of you, since this is not a legal analysis channel by any means. And I'm not here to provide legal analysis, just my take as a layman. This is my hot take after listening to 2 days of it. And the only reason I tuned in was because I was shocked that the prosecution was still going on into day 10. When I saw that on Twitter yesterday, that the prosecution was still going, and I couldn't believe it. I thought, what could they be talking about? Did they have this much evidence on the guy? I mean, that's insane. Just how guilty is he if they're still going at this point? And much to my shock, I turned the trial on, listening to Nick Rekieta and company, as you all should for any big trial like this. And I found very quickly that the state apparently has nothing on the guy. Everything that I've heard over the past 2 days has been basically irrelevant to the murders of Alec Murdaugh's wife and son. Yesterday was all about how he embezzled money from clients and from his law firm, and his secretary complaining about how he was short with her, and how he seemed to be not as nice as he used to be, and that she worked there for so long. Oh, actually, what am I thinking? That secretary I'm thinking testified today. Yesterday, though, was still about just internal office politics. And I think it was his other secretary was the woman they had testifying. She's a woman in a scarf. Not one of those warm scarves, one of those, like, sheer scarves that women of a certain age tend to don. And she was going on about how, she was seeing all these fraudulent checks in the books, and she had to, talk about it with the other partners. And actually, now that I think about it, maybe she was another attorney if she was talking about it with the partners. So maybe she wasn't one of his 2 secretaries. But either way, I listened to that, hours and hours of that. And I keep waiting for the prosecution's punchline about, like, how tying this back to the murder or something. And there was none of that. Now, granted, I'm only listening to 2 days out of what has so far been an 11-day prosecutorial case in chief. I think that's the right term. Forgive me. I'm not a lawyer. Some of the legal terms I get a little mixed up. But anyway, you get my case, or you get my point. This is the state's case, and either, if they're going 2 days this far in with not talking at all about why this guy is guilty of murder, either they're not very good at formulating an argument, and they've got way too much extraneous crap lodged in between all of the real evidence that this guy had something to do with the deaths of his wife and son, or they've got nothing. And they're just trying to throw a bunch of spaghetti up at the wall and hope that the jury gets so tired of this trial by the time that the defense actually rolls around that they're not even going to listen to the defense, that they're not going to care, that they're just going to check out and they're just say, let me go home. Okay, he's guilty. Let's get out of here. This is taking way too long. And based on what I've heard from Rekieta and his panel, that seems to be their supposition as well, and they have actually sat through all 11 days of this trial so far. I mean, just 2 days was excruciating for me. I mean, today, the last witness, in fact, I think he's still going as of the time of recording this, but the last witness that I listened to was this FBI spook who, I guess his job was to, like, hack into the OnStar in the guy's car and get some kind of dirt about him. And, me, I'm one of these people, I would never own a car with OnStar. Even when it first came out, I thought, oh my gosh, that's so creepy and Orwellian. They're watching you all the time. OnStar must know everything about you. The FBI got absolutely nothing out of this guy's OnStar. What they got was data on when the car was in park and when it was not in park, which is hilarious. They have no GPS data. They have no idea where the car was at any given time. They just know that, well, the car was in park, for 30 minutes here, and it was out of park for, 16 minutes there. I think they don't actually even know if the car was running or not. And so at this point, and I don't know, I might not talk about this ever again, because this is not my wheelhouse. I don't think anybody's coming to this channel to hear me talk about Alec Murdaugh. But at this point, my general impression as a member of the public, because remember, the public at large is totally convinced this guy's guilty. That was part of the reason why I turned around, because I remember hearing about the story. I thought, oh yeah, that should be interesting. The guy who killed his wife and his son. And there's apparently no evidence of it. And people believe, they believe wholeheartedly, oh my gosh, he definitely did it. And it's like, okay, why? Why do you believe that? Is it because the man in the box told you so? I think it's because the man in the box told them so. I mean, yesterday, I was convinced that I was watching an embezzlement trial. Or a fraud trial. It's probably just straight fraud, not really embezzlement. But either way, I mean, that's clearly what he should be on trial for. That didn't seem to have any connection to the double murder. Oh, and today they had this another asinine expert talking about how there was gunpowder residue or propellant residue, or did they say propellant or primer? I think they might have meant the primer residue. Which, hey, when you fire a gun, there's some soot, let's say, left behind. There's some unburnt compounds that get on you. They maybe get on your clothes, get on your hands, or whatnot. And the prosecution was stressing how there was this rain jacket that apparently belonged to the defendant, which had like gun residue from a fired gun on the inside of the jacket. And they were talking about how strange that is. And they said, well, the residue should be on the outside of the jacket if you're wearing it. And so was he wearing the jacket inside out? The prosecution raised the idea, well, maybe he took a fired gun and then wrapped it up inside the jacket. It's like, okay, why? What are you trying to say? And how do you know that this happened in any connection to the murder? How do you know that he just didn't happen to wear that jacket one day while he was shooting a gun on his hunting property, which I believe that's what this property was used for, if I remember the story correctly. This is a place where the family would go out and they would go on hunting trips on private land. So anyway, I feel like if I just tune into a murder trial at any point during the prosecution, the prosecution's case, I should get a feel for at least part of the reason why the prosecution thinks this guy is a murderer. And I've got none of that. So my general impression so far is that this guy's probably not a murderer. So nobody asked for it, but that's my take on the Murdaugh trial. And it's just, something that's caught my attention the last couple of days. Tomorrow, I promise I will get to the Cy Hirsch piece, because that actually matters. But this trial was rather stunning to me. And you know what? It is important if there is any man or woman who's just getting railroaded through our so-called justice system. Because there's tons of people who get put away despite the fact that they did absolutely nothing wrong. Every year it happens, and so it seems to me like this guy might be one of them. So with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.